So, hi everyone, good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are joining. Welcome to an international webinar by MediateGuru on the topic Metaverse and Dispute Resolution. So, many participants are still joining it, but without further ado, we will begin. So, a quick introduction about me. I am Aditya Mathur, founding partner at MediateGuru and an emerging technology enthusiast. So, I will be moderating today's session. And a little bit about MediateGuru, who we are, what do we do. We help professionals and students uplevel their careers in ADR through training, certificate courses, organizational seminars, and eminent lecture series from experts around the globe. We are on a mission to further the use of ADR in the world. From 70,000 plus members from 120 countries, we are a global community growing every day. So very recently, I came across a post on this amazing decentralized page, MetaverseLegal. It said creating and which is created and governed by members from all across. It read that everything in the metaverse appears to be a legal challenge right now. It is only inevitable that, given the metaverse wide range of application, disputes will arise. But how are we likely to see claims being dealt with in this new interactive web phase? To get an answer to this and all the other questions, I would like to introduce you today to Miss Ekaterina Grivnova. Ekaterina is an arbitration lawyer with Allen and Overy Paris office. She has experience advising on commercial and investment arbitration cases from broad spectrum of sectors conducted under various arbitration rules. Ekaterina pursues her PhD degree at Sorbonne Law School, drafting her thesis on inadmissibility of claims in international arbitration. She also teaches international arbitration and comparative law at Paris Bar School and University of Versailles. Ekaterina is an editorial board member at arbitration.ru Journal, co-chair of Paris Very Young Arbitration Practitioners, PVYAP, and administrator of MetaverseLegal. So without any further ado, let's dive right into the session. Remember, we have reserved the end minutes only for question and answer. So please keep writing your questions in the chat box. We will address them very soon. Ekaterina, over to you.
Thank you, Aditya. Hello, everyone. So let's start. Can we please pull on the presentation?
Yeah.
Great. So first of all, I would like to thank MediateGuru for the invitation and for the organization. Also, thank you all for having me. I'm extremely honored and extremely pleased to see how many of you have registered, how many of you have joined, and also how many of you share the same passion as me. So I'm very excited to talk today about the metaverse and its potential implications on the dispute resolution. So my name is Ekaterina Grivnova. I'm a lawyer with the International Arbitration Department of Allen Overy Paris office. And you can see my picture at the left of this slide. This is my professional picture from Allen Overy. And you can see also my picture, the picture of my avatar on the right side. Today we're going to discuss what is the metaverse, what is this metaverse that everyone is talking about? And then with this concept in mind, we will discuss what potential implications it can have for the dispute resolution. So what is metaverse? You might have come across this this term of the metaverse quite recently. For example, when Mark Zuckerberg switched the name of Facebook group to Meta, it created quite a few of headlines. But what does it mean, the metaverse? So to put it simply, the metaverse is a virtual world which is based on cutting-edge technologies such as virtual reality, such as augmented reality, such as artificial intelligence, sometimes blockchain. In fact, all these technologies are there to provide you with the immersive digital experience. Different platforms, so different metaverse platforms are evolving in parallel, and they're evolving independently. So for now, we have dozens and dozens of different metaverses already. You can have for example, like on the picture on the right, you can see screenshots, and as a general remark, in all this presentation, you will only see the screenshots that I've done during my experiences in the metaverse. So on the first picture, you see my avatar in Roblox. On the second picture, it was me visiting Sotheby's in Decentraland. And on the third picture, you also can see the Sandbox Metaverse. So the concept of the virtual world would remain the same in all of the metaverse platforms, but the features would differ, and you can even see from this very summary picture that the graphics are different, and sometimes also the story behind would also be different. But what can we do in the metaverse? How can you use it? In the metaverse, you can interact with other places and other people. And globally, there doesn't seem to be a new concept. For those of you who have already played video games or even have heard about video games, it doesn't seem revolutionary. You won't be really surprised by this concept of the virtual reality. So what is the difference between the video games and the metaverse? So unlike gaming, you cannot unplug the metaverse or pause the metaverse. It does not really depend on you. So it continues even when you switch off your computer. There is neither a plot or a history that you need to follow. There are no particular goals that you need to fulfill. Unlike in the video games where you will have a to-do list and some objectives. And also some of your actions in the metaverse would be intertwined with your real life. So what does that practically means? We can definitely play in the metaverse, but we can also work. We can also learn. We can transact. We can go to the concerts. We can go to exhibitions. We can own assets. We can communicate. We can build skyscrapers, and we can create new things. There are a lot of big companies who have already invested in the metaverse, and even some law firms have already established their offices in the metaverse. And why to do the metaverse? The metaverse is set to be in the heart of Web 3.0, which is the third upcoming. I was about to switch to the next slide, which is the main features of the metaverse. I distinguish seven main attributes of the metaverse, and I think that's very important to keep these features in mind for us to properly assess the implications it might have on the dispute resolution. So I really invite each one of you to think after each statement how it can impact your practice of the dispute resolution. So let's start with the first one. So you access the metaverse with your wallet. The rule knows exclusions. Not all metaverses are accessible with cryptocurrency wallets. So for example, Horizon World, which is the Facebook one, you still can access it with your Facebook account. But as a rule, Web 3.0 sites and platforms must be accessible with your cryptocurrency wallet in the same manner as you could have accessed all the sites you access today with your Gmail account or Facebook account. So secondly, all the interactions in the metaverse pass between the avatars. Avatars are 3D animated characters, so you can see my avatar on the slide. And in an earlier version of this presentation, I was saying you're represented by an avatar. Well, it's not completely correct because you are not represented by an avatar. You possess an avatar. What is the difference? The difference is that you still can have like multiple avatars, and your avatars will not necessarily look like you, for example, and it is a digital identity that can be separate from your real self. Thirdly, the majority of assets in the metaverse are digital. So in the metaverse, you can buy clothes, you can buy footwear, which are called wearables. You can buy a piece of virtual land. You can buy a house, virtual house, a drawing, a tattoo, basically whatever you want, but in a virtual form. Why to do so? So I think the main reason would be for fun, but you can also see this as a means of investment because all these things cost quite a lot of money right now. Fourth, for blockchain metaverses, so not all metaverses are blockchain, but still, for blockchain metaverses, the proof of any virtual property that you can have is recorded on blockchain. That means that any user can check the owner of any good in the metaverse via what we call NFT or non-fungible token. So non-fungible token is a digital certificate of your ownership, and we will discuss it a little bit more in detail later. Fifth, transactions are made with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a digital currency, and it would differ from one platform to another. For instance, in Decentraland, you can have Mana, which is decentralized cryptocurrency. In the Sandbox, you can have Sand, and so on. Six, in some metaverses, the users are anonymous. And I would even say in the majority of metaverses, the users are anonymous. And that means that there is no proven connection between a real life person and an avatar. What does it mean? So, for example, I tell you that the avatar that you see on the slide right now is mine. You can believe me or not, but if you don't have any means to check it. And the last thing, the metaverses can be centralized or decentralized. It's easy for centralized metaverses. Centralized metaverses are those metaverses, those virtual worlds that are only owned and governed by one single entity, as any side, any company right now. So this is a classic scenario. But there are also decentralized metaverses. What does it mean? The decentralized metaverses are owned and governed by a user community. So it is represented by almost all users of the platform. So with this in mind, let's discuss the challenges, the potential challenges that the metaverse can have on law. And as Aditya said, everything is a challenge right now because this is the whole new world which is not regulated at all. So it is up to us to create this regulation. But to keep it simple, I divide all these challenges into big groups. So the first group is applicable rules, and the second group is dispute resolution. As for the applicable rules, so you can imagine there are none. A big question would be whether we can or not apply any national rules to the metaverse-related disputes or to the metaverse-related issues and contracts. And if we can, which ones? Like what laws concerning privacy would apply, and so on. So this is a topic that would be highly debated and highly discussed in the future, and I leave it to the professionals. And today we'll focus only on dispute resolution. What would change for the dispute resolution? So what the metaverse would bring. The metaverse is set in general to disrupt our ordinary human activities, and the dispute resolution will need to face the change. It is now, of course, impossible to predict all potential implications it can have on the dispute resolution, but at least three aspects have already become apparent. So the metaverse will give rise to new disputes between new parties, and that would be heard within new procedural frameworks. Let's start with the parties. So this part is quite straightforward. You can imagine that the disputes would involve new actors and primarily the metaverse platforms. And then also the anonymized users. When I say anonymized users, it means that these users would not have any disclosed real-life identity, and they also can, in fact, be artificial intelligence-driven robots. Disputes, so this section disputes would be a little bit more complicated, because the metaverse would definitely add a new angle to traditional disputes. So let's imagine ex-partners splitting their metaverse property, so the property they can have in the metaverse, for example, a virtual piece of land, in the real life divorce proceedings. So this is a new angle to the traditional disputes that we already know. But then the metaverse would definitely open the path towards totally new controversies, such as, for example, theft of metaverse identity, fraudulent multiplication of avatars, and so on. And I split all these disputes globally in 3 different categories. So the first category seems to be linked to the metaverse, but in fact, it is not, because the subject matter of this category, so of the dispute, and the parties to that dispute would be outside of the metaverse. What do I have in mind when I say this? So, for example, you can have employment dispute. Imagine a 3D engineer that is employed for building stuff in the metaverse. But then they can have disputes with its employer, and that would be a classic real life dispute that would be heard by real life tribunals. And in fact, like even if it touches upon the metaverse would not really change anything for this type of disputes. Also, there is a real dispute that has already brought by one law firm. So one law firm brought a lawsuit against another law firm, which name is MetaverseLegal. It was in last September, for being called for using the term which is too generic and which cannot be subject to protection. So let's see how it goes, because like if they succeed in their claims, it means that metaverse law would become not a proper name that we can defend, not a trademark, but the term equal to, let's say, civil law, commercial law. Then we have the second category. The second category of disputes is already more linked to the metaverse. In this case, in this second category of disputes, the subject matter would be already in the metaverse, but the parties would still be outside, and normally these disputes would be litigated before real life courts or real life arbitral tribunals. So here I distinguish very roughly 2 types of disputes: misconduct disputes and property disputes. So misconduct disputes, I call misconduct disputes disputes that are more like crimes. For example, let's imagine real states prosecuting metaverse users in real life, but for their activities, illegal activities in the metaverse. Let's imagine there are a few jurisdictions that forbid gambling, while in the metaverse, like at least in Decentraland, you have a casino, and you can organize gambling activities. So we can think potentially that a state might be interested in that and can pursue this metaverse user that set this activity in the virtual world. And then you have property disputes, which would include, let's say, divorces, trademark infringement disputes, and so on. And the third category that will be mostly heard by Web 3.0 tribunals. This is the most integrated category, the most closest category to the metaverse. The subject matter of the dispute would be in the metaverse, and the parties would be in the metaverse as well. And here I would distinguish three categories of disputes. You do not see, but just behind me, you have misconduct disputes and property disputes. So the same type of disputes that you can have in the second category. But then you can also have content disputes. So what are content disputes? For now, the majority of the metaverses have their own terms of use, and these terms of use normally provide for interdiction of some activities. So they would forbid, let's say, content that would involve some illegal activity, piracy, criminal activity, terrorism, pornography, and so on. So this is content dispute that you might have, for example, against a platform. And now let's discuss some real examples of the disputes that might potentially happen in the metaverse. So there are not many like real disputes linked to the metaverse now. So this is why I will use some neighbor concepts and some Web 3.0 concepts, and we will see how we can apply this by analogy to the metaverse disputes as well. So for these examples, you need to understand one concept, and I've already touched upon it. It's NFT, non-fungible token. So what is non-fungible token? As I said, it is a proof of your ownership that is recorded on blockchain. A non-fungible token is a digital certificate that evidences some rights that you have over a virtual property. And almost everything can take form of non-fungible token. It can be a photo, it can be an artwork, it can be a song, it can be a tattoo, and everything. These NFTs can be sold, can be bought, can be exchanged, and in fact, like right now they're worth quite a lot of money. An interesting detail is that NFTs can exist both in the metaverse and outside the metaverse. For example, in the metaverse, you can have wearables. So you have seen my avatar just next to all the clothes that I have. So all these clothes take form of NFTs, and I can buy other clothes to personalize my avatar. So this is NFT and its existence within the metaverse. But you can also be, let's say, a fan of art created by artificial intelligence. And in this case, you can buy your NFT outside the metaverse on, for example, a marketplace for NFTs. So an NFT marketplace is basically an eBay for NFTs that are created by artists, and you can exchange them on that platform quite freely. And probably the most famous NFT marketplace right now is OpenSea. And the most discussed problem with NFTs right now is intellectual property rules. Why? The problem is that anyone can create an NFT, and it is not that complicated, in fact. For example, you can go to a museum, take a picture of a Van Gogh artwork, and then convert it into NFT. When we say convert to NFT or create an NFT, we use the term mint or minting, because minting is a process of creation of NFTs. So you can mint an NFT out of the work of Van Gogh very easily. Okay, then probably no one will really buy it because you do not have community and it will not have a real worth, but you will own this NFT with the artwork done by Van Gogh. And several companies have already launched trademark lawsuits against persons who have minted, who have created NFTs using their trademarks and using the images of their products. And the legal question here would be, does anyone have a right to create NFT out of anything? So what do you see on slides are these two suits brought by Nike and Hermes. On the first picture, you see virtual sneakers, virtual Nike sneakers. They were created by a company named StockX. And as you see, looks like real Nike sneakers. And Nike pleads and alleges that they have never authorized the use of their logo in these NFTs. The second case, in all this case, there is no concluded case for now. So all these cases have been brought, and we need to pay attention to how they will end, because they will have some implications for the metaverse as well. So on the second picture, you can see Meta Birkin's collection. So all these are NFTs that were created by Mason Rothschild. And of course, Hermes has not authorized the use of this legendary Birkin handbag in the creation of this NFT collection. But what is very particular about this case, as Mason Rothschild claims himself to be an artist and says that Meta Birkin collection, NFT collection, is a commentary on the animal cruelty exhibited by Hermes in the creation of their handbags. So let's see how it goes. But Mason Rothschild is quite confident that he can win the case, because he's an artist and he can use any trademark in the creation of his art. And these cases are not an exclusion. We have already dozens and dozens of cases that look quite alike. Two other cases that I would like to present to you, because they're slightly different. The first one is a quantum. It's called Quantum NFT. It was created by Kevin McCoy on one blockchain, and that blockchain was named Namecoin blockchain. And on blockchain, you have a particular time, and after that time, your record of your NFT expires. So Kevin McCoy let his record of the quantum NFT expired on Namecoin blockchain. And at that moment, Free Holdings acquired the quantum NFT. But Kevin McCoy, considering himself an artist and a creator of this quantum NFT, reminted the same NFT on a different blockchain, Ethereum one, and sold it via Sotheby's for almost $1.5 million. So Free Holdings were not really happy about this, and they sued Kevin McCoy and Sotheby's for fraudulent use, for fraudulent information, and for misleading marketing and promotion, and of course, unjust enrichment. The last case is Timothy McKimmey versus OpenSea. So OpenSea, if you remember, is that famous NFT marketplace. Timothy McKimmey was an owner of Bored Ape. Bored Ape is an NFT that you can see on the slide. It is one of the most famous and the most expensive collections of NFTs ever. So Timothy McKimmey owned this monkey that he acquired for quite a lot of money. And then as a result of a phishing attack to his OpenSea account, he lost the Bored Ape, the monkey. He lost his NFT. So he sued OpenSea, claiming that it was because OpenSea didn't put in place all necessary preventive measures that he lost his NFT that costs and worth a lot of money. If we try to make an analogy with the metaverse, I think it's quite obvious. As for the trademark infringements, you can definitely have art, for example, that is created within the metaverse, and you can definitely have artists that would contest using their art, for example, during an exhibition that happens in the metaverse. And also, you can imagine some claims against metaverse platforms for not providing enough security to its users. And so we have just discussed some potential disputes that we might have within the metaverse, but let's also discuss how these disputes can be adjudicated. So we arrived to this third and the last part of my presentation. We are going to talk here about the procedural framework of Web 3.0. We will start with the traditional dispute resolution. We will discuss whether it is adapted or not to the metaverse. Then we will discuss some potential ways out of the impacts that we have, and we will discuss hybrid dispute resolution. And what I call hybrid dispute resolution, in fact, is the traditional dispute resolution tools, but adjusted to the metaverse realities. And then decentralized dispute resolution, I will explain you what alternative we might have to the traditional dispute resolution right now. So let's start with the traditional dispute resolution. The terms of use of some, if not most of metaverses and other enterprises and companies that might matter for the metaverse users suggest a solution. So almost all the terms of use contain a dispute resolution provision, and they all provide for the traditional dispute resolution. You can see on this slide what particular means of dispute resolution are suggested by each platform. But to sum up, as you see, they all provide either for the state litigation or for the arbitration with a seat in a real state. What is wrong with that? I would say that the traditional means of dispute resolution do not, at least in their current shape, suit the metaverse related disputes at all. Because the metaverse would bring a lot of legal challenges. Remember all the features that we have discussed earlier, but the metaverse would bring a lot of legal challenges, including the things that are listed on that slide. So first of all, I think this is the problem number one is identification of proper parties to the dispute. If all parties to the dispute exist in real life and can be found in real life, they can be identified, they can be sued in real life, there is no problem. But if you remember from previous slides, some users are anonymous, so there is no link between their real life identity and their metaverse identity. So that means that to sue a person before a real life arbitral tribunal or a real life court, you will first need to establish who this real life person is. And this is complicated and sometimes even impossible. Then we have applicable law problem, because imagine you sue another metaverse user before a real life court. What law would this court apply? It is totally unclear what rules shall govern the disputes that are related to the metaverse. On one hand, we see that the metaverse is completely disconnected from any legal order, from any jurisdiction. So it can be very complicated to find any particular national law that must be applied. And on the other hand, some real life laws, if not all, are not adapted at all to the metaverse realities. Some of them can forbid, for example, cryptocurrencies, or impose very heavy regulation on the circulation of cryptocurrency or digital assets and so on. Then evidence assessment. So real life judges and arbitrators might struggle with accessing and evaluating evidence existing in the metaverse, because the metaverse persistence, that means that it exists even when you do not participate in it, may really impede judges and decision makers to reach accurate conclusions about the subject matter of the dispute. Then we have appropriate sanctions. So some metaverse-related disputes would require sanctions that are not available to the real-life judges and arbitrators, such as banning a metaverse user from the metaverse, or, for example, redistributing digital assets. Then we have enforceability of decision, because no metaverse is bound by enforcing any real-life decision. And it might be very tricky for for a winning party to execute and to force execution of the decision that it gets in the real life court. And finally, so last but not least, I think trust of the metaverse users is crucial as well, because you have already probably heard about all problems that we have in the classic dispute resolution, such as bias, such as conflict of interest, and so on. The arbitration procedures that take ages. So if the classic dispute resolution wants to remain within Web 3.0, that means that they need to provide the users with speedy judgments, speedy decisions, speedy process, enforceable decisions, and also qualified and unbiased decision makers. You can tell me that those requirements are very classic for any dispute. This is an expectation for any dispute, even in real life. So, well, yes, it is an expectation, but I'm pretty sure that Web 3.0 users would have much less tolerance to problems and deficiencies of the system that we might have right now in the dispute resolution system. So what are the ways out? We have two options here. Hybrid dispute resolution is the first one. So in fact, for me, hybrid dispute resolution is the traditional dispute resolution, but with adjusted tools. For example, if we talk about the applicable regime, we can think about ex aqua e bono, or amiable compositeur. It's when the parties give the arbitrators the right to rule in accordance with their thoughts of equity and their vision of equity, and not in accordance with any particular national law. As for the enforcement, there are also other options. So let's imagine the real life tribunals that are imposing pecuniary sanctions on the losing parties until they take all necessary actions in the metaverse. And finally, on this enforcement side, we can also have seizures, which is technically quite complicated, but we have recently witnessed that the UK tax authority has seized a couple of NFTs in one of its disputes. And also, we can still discuss whether we can have a sit or hearings in the metaverse. So for me, if we talk about hearings in the metaverse, there is no problem at all, and for me, it's totally will happen because it's not that complicated to do. If you have already explored some metaverses, you have probably seen that they're quite rudimentary right now, but I'm 100% sure that that will evolve in the nearest future. So I'm quite confident that there would be hearings in the metaverse very soon. As for the seat, it's a little bit more tricky because we do not have any arbitration framework within any metaverse. So that means that the parties would lose their right to apply for set aside. And then that will not really help them to understand their rights and obligations in the process. So for now, I think it's a little bit complicated to think about this, but it will definitely change. And probably it will change with the decentralized dispute resolution. So what is the decentralized dispute resolution? This is a total alternative to the traditional dispute resolution. Decentralized justice platforms are digital courts that are specialized in providing dispute resolution services, and they're supported by blockchain technology. So there are already a couple of key players on the market. So the procedure would differ from one entity to another. But all these innovations include, like the innovations include at least two things that I would like to outline today. The first thing is it is called crowdsourcing decision makers or randomly selected decision makers. What does it mean? So when you will have a dispute, you will just click on the button on the platform, and it will automatically select absolutely randomly some, let's say, 3 or 5 jurors or judges out of the pool of decision makers that the platform has. And the second thing, the second interesting thing about this decentralized dispute resolution is on-chain enforcement. What does it mean? So we are talking about the dispute resolution in Web 3.0. So that means that this dispute resolution would concern blockchain and contracts that are built on blockchain. You have probably heard about smart contracts. So smart contracts are contracts with some conditions that are recorded on blockchain. And when these conditions that are provided for in this contract, in this smart contract, are executed, are fulfilled, something automatically happen. So on-chain enforcement is basically an automatic transfer of cryptocurrency or any other asset that you put into that smart contract if a condition, for example, rendering an arbitration award, is fulfilled. Technically, how it works. So imagine we concluded a contract with you. This is a smart contract regarding on blockchain. It provides for a condition. If you create a site for me, I would pay, let's say, 1,000 mana, which is decentralized cryptocurrency, to you. You created your site, and I'm not happy with the performance. So I say the condition is not fulfilled, but you say the condition is fulfilled. So we have a dispute. We'll go to this decentralized dispute resolution platform, and they will give the arbitrators, the jurors, the right to decide who among us is right or wrong, and the condition would be automatically executed, and the cryptocurrency, the 1,000 mana that I put in that contract at the moment of its conclusion, would be automatically transferred to you if you win. So this on-chain enforcement exempts the winning party from the obligation to go to any real-life court to enforce the decision or to recur to any third party to enforce the decision. It is automatic. Once the decision is rendered, you get your money. So this decentralized justice is a new approach to online dispute resolution. It is supposed to be faster, more affordable, and of course, more adjusted to Web 3.0 and to the Metaverse, because you can have a dispute between two anonymized users that touches upon cryptocurrency and so on. So we will see how this will evolve. So this is the end of my presentation, and the future will tell us how the dispute resolution would change and would adapt to the Metaverse. But one thing is sure, the Metaverse is already there, so we legal practitioners shall face it and not escape it. So if you have not yet started to explore and explore the Metaverse, consider it to be the sign. Create your first cryptocurrency wallet and go visit Decentraland, and see you there probably. And right now, I would be very happy to take your questions.
Hi, that was amazing. Thank you so much. You explained very easily and very well many uncertain concepts that we never knew of. Thank you so much. So we'll take quickly some questions that we have from the audience. So I'll start by a question. So when some user is anonymous, does that mean that they have a discretion to hide their identity?
Basically, yes. That means that they have discretion to hide their identity. So when you create your cryptocurrency wallet and when you access Metaverse, you create your avatar. You can name it in a manner you want. You can make it look in whatever manner you want. And then if you do not tell anyone about this avatar. Only you will know that this avatar exists and it belongs to you. But for example, in some cases, for example, in case of Mason Rothschild, you remember the artist who created the Meta Birkin NFT collection? That was not a problem to identify him because he said, I'm the artist and I did it. And he disclosed himself, his identity, while Web 3.0 could have provided him anonymity, but he just didn't want to take it.
True. Yeah, valid enough. So moving on to the next question, does every country will have to going to make laws on metaverse, or will it come under a broader domain of international law? What do you think?
Good question. I think it's like first of all, it's impossible for all countries to adopt metaverse laws, and even if we imagine all countries trying to do so, we will end up with absolutely different set of rules in different corners of this planet, which is not at all the goal and objective of the metaverse, which is set to unify all users from all over the world. So what I think we will end up with some kind of lex metaversia, which would be a set of case law that would be developed by these decentralized courts or even by real life courts of usages in of the position that would be adapted to the metaverse. Because if we try to regulate it directly by laws, we will definitely come to the dead end at some point, because the metaverse is developing much faster than the legislation process can take its place.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think will be an execution procedure for such a resolutions in metaverse?
Interesting question. So for now, there is no meta jurisdiction. There is no meta enforcement system. So that means that we cannot enforce any decisions in the metaverse. But I think at some point they will come up to the conclusion that if they want to provide their users with trust and confidence, they need to tell them, okay, we have some rules, but these rules would be applied by independent tribunals, and the decisions of this metaverse tribunal would be enforced, and we guarantee the enforcement. So I definitely think that at some point we will come up with the enforcement system within each metaverse.
Yeah. So are there any case decided on metaverse till now? Is there any reference of metaverse in any cases?
Not to my knowledge. If you know, please drop a message in the chat. Not to my knowledge, and even for the NFTs, I haven't found any concluded case. There are already dozens and dozens complaints filed, but nothing that would confirm any particular position of any particular court.
True. Okay, so would you suggest any books, any articles to further learn about this in the coming time?
So I suggest you to follow MetaverseLegal LinkedIn page, because on MetaverseLegal we united a lot of lawyers from different branches of law that post each week like short posts and sometimes articles that consider different legal topics. As for the books, I would say beware of something very like with the name like Metaverse Law, because there is no regulation for now. So everything we do as we're speculating a little bit on the implications. So this is what we must do. We need definitely to discuss it. But if someone comes up to you and say, I know everything about the metaverse and I know how the law would work, beware.
That's not that's not possible right now, I think. Okay, so we have amazing questions coming up. So okay, if an NFT community in an NFT community where you have several persons belonging to that community, now in that case there springs up a conflict between this community, and you probably are an individual who is not a user. How do you determine the applicability of the laws to the community and enforceability of these laws?
Well, I think this is a good,
and
case.
some of which can be anonymous. How do you
So
determine that?
I would say like the first set of rules that might potentially be applicable. So if you have NFT community, so what potential set of laws can apply? NFT community, that means that you have a person who minted these NFTs. So probably you know their identity and you know where these persons are based. So you have the first set of rules that might potentially apply. Then you have a marketplace, because if you have a real community, it must be traded somewhere. So you have a marketplace, and the marketplace would necessarily have headquarters somewhere. So you have another set of rules that can be applied. And then you have customers or buyers. Difficult question whether their laws can apply as well, but why not? So you have another set of rules that would apply. I think that would depend on the particular dispute that you would have within your NFT community. And we'll see how it goes, because like for now, what have we seen? We have a complaint made against, like, we have CryptoPunks NFTs. Like, this is a collection, an NFT collection, and it has two versions. So it was first minted, and then they found a default, like a deficiency in that collection, and they replaced that collection with the second generation collection of this same NFTs. So they replaced this, and it was done on Ethereum blockchain. They replaced, but then the first collection was reminted on another blockchain. And what the users were telling, that right now, in fact, there is not one collection, because the creators originally wanted that the second generation would replace the first one. But in fact, right now there are two collections that are evolving parallelly, and that means that the price drops, because there are no 100 CryptoPunks, but 200 CryptoPunks. So this is like an example of dispute that might exist. I would say that my first reflex would to go towards the applicable law of the marketplace. But then we can integrate there a whole bunch of potentially applicable rules.
True, yeah. And we'll have to see how that comes in the near future. So, okay, so next question. I've seen there are cases happening for this. Can metaverse held marriages opt for dispute resolution?
Marriages. The
Yeah,
question was about,
marriages. Yeah,
so there are,
metaverse held marriage.
yeah, but like there are already a couple of marriages that have happened in the different metaverses. I do not see how they can be legally recognized. So I think when you marry someone in the metaverse, probably your avatars are married, but still, like, there are no applicable marriage laws in the metaverse. So the metaverse does not really care about your marital life, and in the real life, it is just not recognized. But I think we can evolve towards recognizing some kind of unions in the metaverse, and thinking about creating some regimes that exist in real life. So if in metaverse it's not that easy to imagine for now, but what we can imagine is a real marriage in the real life between real persons, when they have property, let's say a piece of virtual land and Decentraland, and then they try to divorce, and then the judge say, okay, you split your property. How can we enforce the decision in the metaverse, given the fact that the metaverse doesn't really care about real life decisions neither? So this is a nice spot, and I think if you're a family lawyer, you definitely will find your way in the metaverse as well.
So yeah, and we have some lovely comments coming in from you. That was an amazing informational session. We really enjoyed it. You can read it in the chat box. So yeah, I think this is it. These are the questions that are
Thank you
relevant
very
to the
much,
session.
guys.
Okay, thank you so much for joining Trina. That was a very, very amazing session. And thank you, participants, also for joining on today. Do not forget to fill out the feedback form that is in the chat box to receive your certificates. And don't forget to check out MediateGuru on all social media platforms to level up your career in ADR. Check out MetaverseLegal to stay updated on the latest development in the metaverse space. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.
Bye bye. Have a good day. Thank you very
Bye.
much.